Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me on Brian the Writer. Today, I want to talk about a topic that I've talked about a little bit at a couple different conferences and stuff that I've gone to, but I wanted to put it into sort of a better perspective. So, the thing that I want to talk about is how to be marginally happy as a writer. A lot of people get into writing and they beat themselves up, and I guess there's a misconception out there that we should all be Will Shakespeare sitting there with a candle and a quill pen and getting angry and drinking ourselves to death. Totally not the case. But there are some tips and tricks to make sure that you're living at least a healthy life. So the things I'm going to break this down into 2 videos, by the way. So I've got 10 things total, but I'm going to go with, I'm going to give you the first, I guess 6 through 10. I'm going to do it in reverse order. And then we're going to do the rest in another video. First of all, do this for me. I want you to go to a mirror, anywhere in your house, bathroom, wherever, and I want you to look at yourself. And I want you to say these 3 words to yourself. I forgive you. One of the biggest things that a lot of writers do is they get into sort of this self-deprecating mode where they beat themselves up constantly over lack of word count, lack of progression on certain books and stuff. A lot of that's all technical details, but you really do need to remember that you're a human being at the end of the day, and you're not a machine, unless you really are a machine, at which point, congrats. But you're not perfect, and you're never going to be. So chill out. Except those times when your writing may not be where it wants to be. Maybe you don't necessarily have your editing exactly where you want to be. Maybe your process isn't exactly right. It's okay. You'll get there. So be willing to forgive yourself, and there'll be tons of other times that people are going to rip and tear at you for varieties of different reasons, but you don't have to add to that. So the next thing I want to say is that you need to create a routine. If you want to be a successful writer, look at how you're doing things and decide what you're going to do. For example, when I write short stories, I tend to write them almost in a very haphazard way. I'll start the concept and I'll get some words down on paper, and then I will actually move to go do something else for a while that day, and then I'll come back to it. It doesn't evolve in one sitting. It kind of takes place over a day or two when I have a time to sit down and just sort of play with the words a little bit. I recently just wrote a short story to submit to an anthology that's going to be out later on this year, hopefully. And because of that, I went through this process where I was sitting there. It probably took me 4 or 5 days to write this thing, and just in fits and starts. And then I went into my editing process after I thought I had the storyline down the way I wanted it to. When I write long, like novel length stuff, I tend to sit down for like 2-3 hours at a time and write. I do this because I know I need to be devoted to the storyline. I know that I need to be devoted to the characters themselves so they can come out, so they can shine, so they can tell me how they're going to live their lives. If I don't spend time working on that, like in an isolated headspace, I miss important points, and it doesn't come out right. So anyway, that's just what I do. Also, I tend to write better in the morning, speaking of routines. First thing in the morning when I get up is like my optimal time. I'll sit down and I'll write. I don't always get the chance to do that, though. Sometimes I really do have to write in the afternoons. Like as I'm making this video, it's 5:44 in the evening. It just happened to be when I had time. I had to do some things in the kitchen. You can't smell it over the video, but my house smells wonderful right now. I made a stew, but my wife's also making chili, so it just smells really good in here right now. Now I'm hungry. Thanks. So, also, I guess number 8 would be do what feels right. We all have an internal secretary that essentially tells us what we're going to write, when we're going to write. Don't beat yourself up if you don't feel like oh, well, I haven't devoted an hour to my main manuscript right now, and instead I sat down and wrote a short story. Sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need that change of routine, and it's your body and your mind telling you it's just time to do something else as a little distraction. I find that if I try to force myself to write in a certain way, I get vapor-locked and no progress is made. Sometimes writing doesn't even feel right. So I get up and do something else completely. I like to go play video games. I like to go read other things. And when I do that, it helps clear my mind and keep me moving on projects. So number 7 on my list is you have to know your own weaknesses. It seems very much like it should be a no-duh kind of thing to say, but know what you're bad at and work on those things. I'm terrible at grammar. I'll be the first to tell you. I just don't have whatever it is that people get that makes them amazing grammar people. I just don't have it in me. But I'm very, very good at storylines. I'm very good at writing a story that is interesting, unusual, has little twists and turns in it. I rely on others to help me make my grammar better. Now, that's not to say I don't try and make my grammar better. I do read up on things. I do belong to a couple different Facebook sites where that's what is discussed, grammar. I learn little by little. Still not where I want to be ever, but that's when I go back to rule number 10. Forgive myself. You know, I'm not going to be the perfect grammarian overnight, but that's okay. I don't have to be, and I'm not going to be, so that's okay. Number 6, so the last one for at least this video, don't be afraid of technology, but also don't be afraid of antiquity either. You know, I think there's a bit of a so when I work with kids, it's very interesting because they always automatically fly to Google and say things like, oh, well, I can put this in Google and have an answer right away. And I always turn around and say, well, that's cool, but there's a dictionary. I also have a thesaurus. I also have, this is really cool, this is actually one of my favorite things, my Chicago Manual of Style. Look, you can, and this is really cool too. It's the guide to everyday life in the 1800s. You have to have these reference materials at hand. There's something magic about actually turning the pages of a book in a dictionary and seeing words that you didn't even know existed before. Without that tactile feeling, I think I feel a little bit left out. So I think one of my dreams is to have like one of those stands in my office space where I've just got a dictionary on top of it, you know, the kind you see in like middle school libraries. Anyway, so that is number 6 through 10 of the things that you have to do to, in my opinion, have a happy writing life. So I'm going to do 1 through 5 at a later date. So have a wonderful weekend. If you're on the East Coast, you're probably wearing waders about now. We got a lot of rain out here in Virginia. Lots of rain this weekend. It's just been absolutely miserable. But anyway, have a wonderful afternoon. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And keep your eye on me and check me out. All right. Bye-bye.